Iedereen is zo gestrest. Ja. Gewoon rustig doen. En waar kan het nou beter dan in Hengelo? Hengelo, oh, oh. Hengelo. Hengelo, oh, oh. Ik neem je mee, waar paardenbloemen bloeien. Naar groene weides met kippens, varkens, koeien. Het buitenleven, ver weg van de grote stad. Op het platteland, waar mensen groeten en in zijn voor een praatje. Ver weg van stress en het leven dat bespaart je. Zoveel ellende, lekker leven met de dag. Dus we gaan naar Hengelo. Hengelo, oh, oh. Ga maar mee. Hengelo. Hengelo, oh, oh. Wat is het dan? Waar je gewekt wordt door kraaiende hanen. En motocrossers op modderige paden. Bier en wieven, lekker lang in het gras. Waar klootskieten, net als brommerskieten. Hoort bij iedereen zijn favorieten. En dan gaan, genieten elke dag. Waar ook alweer? Hengelo. Oh ja, Hengelo, oh, oh. Ha. Hengelo. Hengelo, oh, oh. Ga je mee naar het oosten? Hengelo. Hengelo, oh, oh. Lekker bier is lopen proosten. Hengelo. Hengelo, oh, oh. Waar zoeken brengen en op de proen kroepen. Uitverdaan en doe een mode groeten. Wie trapt ma op naar vrouw Havenkamp. Oh ja, sorry, Nederlands ja. Het klinkt ver weg, maar slechts 2 uur rijden. Een stukje midden in die oostelijke zijde van het land. Ik wou dat ik nergens anders was. Hengelo. Hier is Hengelo, oh, oh. Yeah, 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 yeah. Hengelo, oh, oh. Hengelo, Hengelo. Hengelo. Yeah, 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 yeah. Hengelo, oh, oh. Bra-ba-ba-ba-bee. Hengelo. Hengelo, oh, oh. Twente. Ik dacht zeker dat hij al was afgelopen, maar niet. Hakkawa dacht, Anina. 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 Je moet gewoon met gaan. Je moet niet dom blijven doen. Trap maar over de A1. Dan gaat het niet, hè. Om gaaf. Het is helemaal niet ver weg, hè. Maar gewoon even de tijd nemen. Zoek brengen op de proomcrew. Dat gaat wie doen. Ben je er klaar voor? Yeah, 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 yeah. Zeg me maar nog. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, dat gaat goed dan niet. Komt ie dan? Yeah, 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 yeah. Laat me je horen nou. Kom op. Yeah, 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 yeah. Hey, zeggen jullie nog? Hengelo, Hengelo. Als ik zeg Hengelo, zeggen jullie nog? Hengelo, Hengelo. Als ik zeg Hengelo, zeggen jullie nog? Hengelo, Hengelo. Als ik zeg Hengelo, zeggen jullie nog? Hengelo, Hengelo. Hengelo. Oh, maar nog mooi, Nina. Ik had het al zegt, jong. Hier moet je weer. Hengelo. Hengelo. Ik kan wel het beste blijven, jong, maar dat is veel te druk. Hengelo. Ja, 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 ja. Hengelo, oh, oh. Hengelo, Hengelo. Hengelo. Ja, 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 ja. Hengelo, oh, oh. Hengelo, Hengelo. Oh, mooi, Anina.
dat is geen flauwekul. Werken op het land met mooie spul. Het schiet al jaren goed, want het zit hem in het bloed. En zijn vader heeft hem leerd hoe of het moet. Na een goed gezeur met de belasting aan de deur, giet hij gauw weer aan het werk. Hij trekt de trekker uit de schuur en zo verandert zijn humeur. En die diesellucht die rukt zo lekker sterk. Vertel deze boer toch niet waar hij moet, want hij weet zelf wel wat hij doet. Het schiet al jaren goed, want het zit hem in het bloed. En zijn vader die heeft hem leerd hoe of het moet. Soms dan wortels moeilijk maakt, ja je hebt ze erbij. Stikstof en halvering op de boerderij. Dan rennen we met z'n allen op de trekkers naar Den Haag. En dan vatten wij die liberale lullo's bij de kraag. En mocht het dan niet baten, nou een verbaal gevecht. Het schiet om het principe en een klein beetje respect. Hij durft geen kiezen van hem vreten, begrip dit dan goed. No farmers, no food. Vertel deze boer toch niet waar hij moet, want hij weet zelf wel wat hij doet. Het schiet al jaren goed, want het zit hem in het bloed. En zijn vader die heeft hem leerd hoe of het moet. De boer die weet wat hij wil, daar is geen flauwekul. Werken op het land met mooie spul. Het schiet al jaren goed, want het zit hem in het bloed. En zijn vader die heeft hem leerd hoe of het moet. Vertel deze boer toch niet wat hij moet, want hij weet zelf wel wat hij doet. Het schiet al jaren goed, want het zit hem in het bloed. En zijn vader die heeft hem leerd hoe of het moet. En we giet nog niet weten, minder eiwit door het vreten. Het giet om de gezondheid van het vee. Het is totaal overbodig en geef het nou eens toe. No farmers, no food. No farmers, no food. No farmers, no food. No farmers, no food.
Wordt een lange nacht.
Ja, dat wordt zeker een lange nacht.
Victor, Victor, Victor. Victor, 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 Victor. V-I-C-T-O-R. 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 Victor, Victor. Victor, Victor, Victor. Victor, Victor, Victor. V-I-C-T-O-R. Victor, Victor, Victor. 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 V-I-C-T-O-R. Victor. Victor, 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 Victor. V-I-C-T-O-R. Victor. 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 V-I-C-T-O-R. Victor. Victor.
Hi folks, welcome to the Victor Show. And today, it's a mess. Let's just call it that. Because every single freaking year I have to cover this. At what point in time will the Dutch government actually realize, hey, this ain't working? Because they're trying. Previous times, again, it's because of the nitrous oxide that the European Union has bestowed upon us, stating, hey, you're not allowed to have that many nitrous oxide. Now, here's a fun fact, folks. So, instead of taking on all the farmers, the government went smart. And they went, so, this, hold on, I don't think you guys can see my mouse because I turned it off. Settings real quick. Where is that? Because otherwise I can't show you guys the wonderful province. Oh, there you go. Oh no, I don't have. Oh, I don't have that hidden. Nice. So this wonderful province over here, 70% of all farmers over there need to go, because the last time they tried to do it, they went, all farmers, we need to get rid of 70% of all farmers. So every single province got mad, and every single province farmers showed up. And so that didn't work. So this time they went, well, hey, the nitrous oxide is so pollutant for our wonderful nature preserves that just these farmers need to go. Now, all nice and dandy, but we got this lovely little island called Vlieland over here. They don't have cars. They don't have farms. They're stuck with 76% of nitrous oxide pollution now. How are they gonna fix that? Because there are like I believe there are 3 towns on there, but the people down there, over there don't have cars. They ride bikes, so it's literally the least pollutant area in the entire country. Yet they have 76% nitrous oxide pollution. Because here's the fun thing: when it comes to airplanes, for instance, for air traffic, we only measure their nitrous oxide output up to 900 meters. Last time I checked, commercial airlines don't fly that low. They fly at 20,000 feet or higher. So, of course, that little island has a lot of nitrous oxide, and that's simply because it's right in the path of the Schiphol Airport over here in Amsterdam, near Amsterdam, and then you got Enschede over here. Oh no, over here, and then you got several others like Eindhoven, and those flights all go over there, heading towards England, or flying over England over to America, or flying toward the northern European countries. But we don't measure that, so we can't do anything about that. Same thing, wonderful thing with our wonderful factories. We have one that that is literally allowed to dump 18,000 liters of 18,000 tons of nanoparticles in our inland waters. So that's fun. Everyone's drinking microplastic now. Yay! So much for the cleanest drinking water on the planet. But hey, we're not here for that. We're here for something else. We're here for this wonderful thing. Cause, oh no, that one. Cause this is the other problem. What are we Dutch known for? We're known for our windmills, our clocks, our tulips, and the simple fact that the vast majority of the country is farmland. We'll get that in 1 second, but here's my main complaint with these people in our government, and that's the simple fact they go, well, we need to get nature back under control, especially in this area over here. Well, what area you mean? See, this used to be nature, folks. All this water over here, this blue, that used to be nature. So, if we really want to go back, we might have to poke some holes in some levees, right? But that's the thing. We can't talk about that. That's why we're talking about this. And that's why all the farmers went to over here, which is below sea level, to have their little protest. But before we get to the wonderful protest, this is the wonderful thing. Well, wonderful. This is my problem with it. So, climatologists and other people keep going, oh no, in 2030, in 2040, in 2050, terrible things are happening. Here's one terrible thing. By 2050, we're supposed to be at 10 billion people. How are we going to feed them when we're getting rid of the farms? Just saying.
Here we have the Netherlands, a beautiful, very flat country made up of windmills and tulip fields. When people think of the Netherlands economy, their mind goes straight to Amsterdam, whether it be the coffee shops or recent headlines about post-Brexit financial services. But in this video, we are going to explore Dutch agriculture.
When I think of Amsterdam, I think of getting knifed, getting raped, a lot of other horrible things. I don't think about. I don't really think about the things he's naming. Sorry. And for anyone who goes, oh, but Amsterdam is about weed. Here's the thing, folks. You can buy weed anywhere in the Netherlands. It's not legal. It's condoned. Huge difference. America should learn from that.
Which has helped turn the economy of the Netherlands into the Silicon Valley for food. If I asked you, who do you think is the biggest food exporter in the European Union? You might think France, Spain, or Italy. That's what I answered before I researched this video. As you might have guessed from the title of this.
And that makes this guy a retard, because Germany produces more than France or Italy or Spain. Same thing, not for Poland, but Czech Republic. They also produce more than Spain and Italy, but this guy doesn't know a lot about Europe, I guess.
Video, the answer is actually the Netherlands. The Dutch economy is the agricultural powerhouse of the European Union.
Now, this guy has a lot of things right. He also has a lot of things wrong, and we're going to correct him on that.
And that title could perhaps stretch to the world for certain fruits or vegetables. The Netherlands is the second largest food exporter globally, behind the United States. But if you compare the population of both countries, it's no surprise the USA is ahead. The truth is that agriculture in the Netherlands performs.
Not for long. If the US keeps burning down their food processing plants and keeps on pestering their farmers with EPA rules and taxation, we Dutch will be the biggest exporters. Well, provided we get to keep our farms.
Performs incredibly well and generates a lot of economic growth and productivity growth for the Dutch economy. So how did this happen, despite having a relatively low landmass compared to other large agricultural economies?
A relatively low landmass. We have a tiny speck of a landmass. That's the whole joke. when you look at Germany or France, the Netherlands will fit in that 4 times. Spain 3 times. Italy also 3 times. Yet we outproduce all of them.
Understanding this is the aim of this video, and if you appreciate the work that goes into these videos, don't forget to click that like and subscribe button.
Yeah, we're not going to be liking and subscribing
can really help
because
support the channel.
you got a lot of
so
things
why
bad.
has the economy of the Netherlands become something of an agricultural powerhouse? Typically, as countries become more developed, they move away from sectors like agriculture to heavy manufacturing and then eventually services. The reason for this is due to an economic concept called opportunity cost.
Oh, hello England. How's England doing? Not very well.
This is essentially the hidden cost of making one decision over another. For example, if you have a piece of land that is 1 hectare and you use it to grow potatoes, you might earn 7,000 or 8,000 euros. If instead you use that area to build a factory or an office, the return could be much higher. Well, the Netherlands has actually been a bit backwards in this aspect.
Yeah, we've been a bit backwards, but we're trying our damnedest to get ahead of this and get rid of our farms and turn it into development land. Because again, this is the stupid thing. The media will tell you, "Oh, it's for the environment. Oh, the poor nature." Why do we have every farm that how to put this? Any farmer that stops working, whether of old age or they're just gonna sell a farm, how come that turns into either a massive solar farm or an industrial complex? Because apparently we care about nature only when it suits us, like getting rid of our farmers.
Famous Dutch companies include Shell and Philips, and the first stock exchange.
Well, Philips is no longer a famous company, and Shell has a horrible reputation as a company, so that's not a good reputation.
Exchange in the world was actually in the Netherlands. It wasn't until fairly recently that the Dutch economy started looking at ways to become a large agricultural producer and exporter. Now I know what you might be thinking. Agriculture.
Again, this is a thing. We didn't look for ways to become a large agricultural producer. We became one by hand and fist. And he's going to list a lot of false... This is the problem. The Dutch government in the 1970s didn't care about farmers. So what did farmers do? They made several political parties that had way more popularity than the ones that were already in power, which meant they had power, which meant innovation happened. But nowadays politics will go, yeah, we did that. Like this dumbass will tell you.
In the European Union, it's got to be subsidised. You would be partially right, as the Common Agricultural Policy is essentially just that. But compared to other prosperous EU countries, the Netherlands gets a much lower subsidy. The Dutch economy gets about 1/3 of what Greece gets, or 1/10 of what France gets. And when you consider this...
That's because we're carrying Europe. Also, everyone currently on Twitter is like, oh, these welfare farmers, we need to get rid of them. Dutch farmers barely get any subsidization, and if they do, it's because they're applying innovative technology. That's where the subsidization comes from. But again, people will claim, oh, these farmers are basically welfare leeches and are a drain on society, even though they make up 6% of our national GDPs, which is kind of insane compared to other nations that rely on are massive exporters of food, like Germany, France, America. In America, the export of food, that's not 6%, that's barely 1%.
To one of the other countries I've covered before, Switzerland, it is clear that something else explains this. The answer as to how the Netherlands economy has become the garden of the world can be explained in one word: technology. That's the simple answer, but that doesn't explain why other countries can't keep up. After all, it's not as if Spain or France can't afford technology. And that's why we have to go back a bit further to understand why...
Here's the funny thing with technology. Unless you develop it, folks, you don't have it. And if you don't have it, you gotta pay a premium to get it. It's the simplest reason. Why does Africa not have peace and integrated infrastructure for internet and other communication options? Because they're poor, and that takes money. Investing in infrastructure over here in the Netherlands, we've done that extensively to an absurd level at some points. And again, this guy doesn't understand how things work, apparently. He loves how he has a wonderful way of promoting shit, but he has a lot of falsehoods in it.
Agriculture in the Netherlands was promoted as a sector. In the 1970s, the economy of the Netherlands was one of the most prosperous in Europe. Compared to the UK, the Netherlands was practically a paradise. Instead of rolling blackouts and constant strikes, the Netherlands economy was growing and dominating global.
Yeah, in the 70s we didn't have strikes at all. Sure. Here's the fun bit, bud. We had a crap ton of strikes during the 70s. We had the coal miner strikes. Yes, we had coal mines. we no longer mine for coal, but we used to have coal mines. We had the farmer strikes, which ended up becoming multiple political parties who no longer care for them, and now we have new political parties for farmers that don't care about them. But this is my problem. If you don't only do service level investigation, don't do anything at all.
Market in electronics and gas. However, there were some issues that started to appear in the Netherlands during this time.
By the way, our electronic market is dead. Our gas market is also dead. But we need to get rid of our farmers. That makes 6% of our GDP, while we're heading towards an insane amount of inflation and recession that's coming. That is going to be worse than the 1920s. But sure, we still have technology, folks.
Time. With market-leading firms growing at a rate quicker than the rest of the economy, it encouraged younger, more educated workers to move away from agriculture to well-paying sectors. This put Dutch agriculture under a lot of pressure, an issue made worse by the fact that Dutch farms can't really benefit from economies of scale. Unlike the USA, which has incredible...
Yeah, that's another stupid thing. Let's bring the wonderful map back. Not that map, this map. See, the reason why we reclaimed all of that land that's blue over here wasn't because, hey, we're gonna put factories on there. We reclaimed all of that land for farmland. We've always been a farming tycoon. Goddamn! Ever since we became a nation, we were a farming tycoon. We were known for that. That's why the French gave us the orange carrot as a reward. That's why we now have orange carrots, folks. This is the fun. This is my problem with this guy. He doesn't understand the Dutch history when it comes to farming. The Dutch we literally have three things. It's our naval prowess of shipbuilding, farming, and our water management. Those are the three main progenitors of the Dutch market. But sure, we didn't do farming until 1970s, folks. Hold on. Where are we? Bum. Where is that? There it is. Dang it.
Large farms, typically owned by a big corporate. The Netherlands had the opposite, which made large investments.
Also not true, folks. We have a crap ton of big corporate farms. Again, something he should know.
More risky. Another issue at this point is an economic concept called the Dutch disease. With sectors like natural gas bringing in large demand, the Dutch currency continued to strengthen. This made it even harder for Dutch farmers to compete with agriculture from other European economies. So why didn't the Dutch government just give up on agriculture?
Yeah, and soon we'll get to deal with the German disease, which is hyperinflation, where we're going to have to roll in wheelbarrows full of money just to buy a loaf of bread.
Agriculture. After all, It wasn't that valuable to the economy of the Netherlands, and trade was
Again, it was not valuable. It was. The problem was, everyone, the government didn't care, so the farmers did. And guess what? The public also did. Hence, those parties came into power. Jeez.
becoming more open across the globe, meaning there wasn't a food security issue. Well, if the Dutch government was looking at it purely from an economic perspective, they might well have given up on it. But sometimes people...
Again, this is another stupid idea of, oh, the Dutch don't need it because they don't need it for food security. In 1970s, we were well aware of all the wonderful centuries before that where, oh, we're importing sugar from Suriname, we're importing rice from the Indies. Yeah, until a certain navy, the Spanish Navy, or the British Navy, or the French Navy showed up. And then we had an issue. That's why we turned into the VOC, which was the largest conglomerate, how would you call it? Conglomerate company that still to this day has to be outclassed by the current tech companies. This is the stupid thing. We were always a mercantile country where agriculture and trade went hand in hand. Yet he goes, oh, we out of the blue we decided to go farming.
and politics can get in the way of that. The good news is that the outcomes have been remarkably positive, but we will come back to those later. Farming associations in the Netherlands had a disproportionate amount of power. For example, farming associations essentially had an open door policy with the government, and
they did not. That's why they formed political parties, so they achieved an open door policy. This is my problem with it. I hate people who don't understand shit.
They regularly took the opportunity to try and keep agriculture alive within the country. As the rest of the economy was developing around them, Dutch farmers were not willing to change from agriculture to one of the growing sectors. And given their political influence, the government needed to figure out a way to deal with this issue. Instead of giving up on agriculture, the Dutch government decided to double down on agriculture and decided that if it was going to be part of the Netherlands economy, it was going to be a productive one.
Again, this little story came from the Dutch government. So, the Dutch farmers turned into a conglomerate. They turned into a VOC, an agricultural VOC over here, which basically meant they joined forces into a massive conglomerate farming corporations, who then got the attention of the tech companies like Philips, who went, hey, we can help in that, we can make money. And then the farmers went, oh, then we can make money. And then the banks went, oh, then we can make money. And then the government went, maybe we should be doing this, because then we can make money. Because unless people seem to forget, we Dutch care a lot about money. But this guy doesn't understand the concept of the Dutch greed. Just saying. He does understand the Dutch disease of, hey, if the money becomes more valuable, certain industries won't thrive because of their looming cost over it. But he doesn't understand where the Dutch disease comes from, which is mainly money, and our pension and our intentions of accumulating such.
Since salaries couldn't be reduced or more land created, the only solution was to improve productivity, and that's where technology and research step in. More specifically, the University of Wageningen entered the scene and became a key economic player. This university is to the Dutch economy what Stanford University is to Silicon Valley.
It didn't enter the scene, it was founded by agricultural firms, the agricultural firms, Philips, and the banks. See, back in those days, I don't know how people consider how colleges work these days. These days, colleges get money from governments. Back in those days, colleges got money from the people because the government didn't pay colleges. Remember those days where we didn't have a bloating government? And that's how certain colleges were established. Wageningen, the TU Delft, for instance, all those wonderful things were founded by big corporations or big economic powerhouses. Or hell, if you wanted to send your kid to the university, you started paying that said university the minute your kid was born. So by the time he was 18, he had a scholarship built up inside the university because the parents paid monthly a fee to the universities. But hey, that's the good old days. Now we're gonna get to the bad days.
Valley. Stanford University is not only a world leader in research, they also produce the best computer scientists in the world. These computer scientists...
Yeah, that's an over-exaggeration, buddy. Stanford University doesn't produce the best. They produce a lot, but not the best. Hell, even Europeans don't produce the best. If you want to have the best, go to Taiwan, go to Japan. Hell, even China has better ones. But don't tell Stanford that, because then they'll lose their government funding.
Scientists then leave Stanford and go to work for Facebook, Apple, or Google. For agriculture, this Dutch university takes up the mantle of world leader. And instead of being called Silicon Valley, the Netherlands has Food Valley. Many of you probably hadn't heard of this university. I certainly hadn't, but its role cannot be understated. It only works in the world of agriculture, and everything is geared towards producing the best research and the best workforce for the sector. They don't offer degrees in law or politics. It is all about biology, chemistry, or food science. They are also funded in a very...
Yeah, this is another weird thing. Why do people think universities have a multi-diverse education system? We have, it's not just the Dutch, the Germans, the French. They all have a specific university for a specific line, for a specific field. That's the whole point of a university. That's where you get your masters. It's kind of hard to get your masters when you also have to go to other classes that have nothing to do with your trade. But yeah, again, this guy is not very knowledgeable about things, I gather.
Very different way to most universities, which stems from the fact that to make Dutch farming competitive, it needed to be productive. The funding structure for the university is made up of both public and private sector funding. In the last 2 decades, public sector funding for the university's research budget has doubled, aimed specifically at improving the economy of the Netherlands through something called agritech. Over 25% of the funding then comes from the private sector, typically agricultural firms wanting to...
You see, folks, when the agritech farms funded this wonderful university and developed this wonderful technology, suddenly it became profitable for the public sector to put money into it, so they would get also access to these wonderful technologies. Because that's the weird thing, like LED technologies, folks. I'm not saying we Dutch invented it, but we had a lot to do with it. It's with a lot of other technologies. We had a lot to do with it. And then the public sector gets involved and it goes, hey, we should develop that into a commercial product. But this guy does not understand how that whole thing worked, I guess.
To improve their own productivity. This does not mean that the university is being privatised, nor does it mean that the research the university produces...
That literally means the university is privatized, you dumbass. When the private sector and the public sector are paying for it, that means the government isn't paying for it. That means it's a private. This is my problem with this guy. He points out wonderful videos and whatnot, but he doesn't understand how. This isn't a public school. This isn't a public university, folks. This is. You don't get into this university through public school. You go to farm schools, which are again funded by Agritech. Then you go to college, which is funded by Agritech, because you go follow those classes, which aren't public. They're not public schools. God damn it.
Is hidden away, never to be seen again. It actually has a major benefit. which is that it allows the university to be connected to the business community in the region. And through a concept
That's
called
why
the
it's a private.
agglomeration effect, this has
That's why
created
private
economic
university, you
boom.
dumbass.
By working closely with agricultural businesses and helping them to boost the Dutch economy, it has encouraged more firms to set up in the area. This in turn leads to business support services like accountants or lawyers setting up shop, as well as
Yeah, here's the weird thing, buddy. You can paint that all because they incentivize businesses and have startups and whatnot. We didn't get more farmers. In fact, we've been losing farmers because of this. Because we don't need as many farmers. Because one farmer gets a better crop yield, they outcompete the other farmer. This guy doesn't know a lot.
cafes or restaurants as wages go up. Most importantly in this instance, it also encourages intelligent people to come and study at the university. The university is the most cited in this field and has incredibly close links with businesses. Whether you want to do research or become an entrepreneur, the university is the place to be for those interested in agriculture.
Yeah, here's the thing, bud. There's not a single farmer that went to that university. So, if you want to go into business, you're not doing farming. You're doing corporate business.
The result is that 40% of the students and staff at the university are foreign, coming from every inch of the globe. For someone like me, who can only speak one language, it would be great as...
Huh. I thought he was foreign. This is his first language? Why does he have this thick accent? And he can only speak one language? Oh dear.
The official language of the university is actually English. To give an example of what this actually means to people in real life, let's look at tomato growing in the Netherlands. The starting point is to understand that in natural Dutch conditions, growing tomatoes would be pretty challenging.
Not really. Tomatoes grow pretty fine. They grow fine around here. Here's the thing. You only have one season to get tomatoes. And that's the summer season. Other than that, tomatoes grow fine. But what he's going to show is we'll be harvesting tomatoes year round. Now that's an innovation, but Dutch conditions don't prevent tomato growing. Orange trees, on the other hand, that's a different story. You won't see those over here because mainly due to the wet climate, those trees will go bad. Especially their fruits will go bad. But tomatoes, you can grow tomatoes anywhere, aside from the Arctic.
Thankfully, through the research produced by the university, the Netherlands is a pioneer in LED technology and improving agricultural yields. This helps create a precisely controlled microclimate which can be operated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This has helped the Netherlands become a world leader in tomato growing and exporting. But there's also a bigger piece to
Yeah, side bit about that, but these tomatoes don't grow as fast by UV LED lighting alone. We also pump in about how much was it again? Like 8.3 trillion cubics of gas, CO2 gas, by the way, a year into these greenhouses. And it's not just tomato growing ones; it's flower greenhouses. It's pretty much every greenhouse has a CO2 intake. That's why we Dutch are at -2% CO2 production, which is why nitrous oxide suddenly is an issue. Because, hey, we gotta do better.
all of this. Economic growth and protecting the environment are often put side by side as things that are mutually exclusive. The Dutch tomato is an example that shows that this is not always true. In the USA, farmers need about 126 litres of water for every 1 kilo of tomatoes. In the Netherlands, farmers need just 8 litres of water to grow a kilo of tomatoes. An amazing saving in both economic and environmental terms.
Don't you love this solar farm? That used to be an actual agricultural farm. And then that farmer sold his property, or he back in the 90s and Even in the 2000s and in the 80s, certain farmers were disowned from their land. And they were mostly cattle or agricultural farmers for projects like this. Because we care about the environment.
Not only does the university help to produce the research, it also plays a key role in getting that research out there so that farmers can take advantage of it. What I didn't know was how quick technology changes within agriculture, and it is thanks to the university and the Dutch
Well, buddy, here's the thing. The technology changes literally by the by the harvest season. Hell, even the growing season will change the technology because, hey, this plant ain't growing fast enough, so we'll change that. And then they'll hit up another farmer and go, hey, are you growing this? No, I'm going to be growing. Let's say, for instance, we have plenty of vegetables. We have 2 seasons for growing. So in the first season, if they don't grow fast enough, they adapt the technology for the next season. But apparently this guy thinks this takes decades.
Agricultural Council, the farmers can stay on top of that. After all, it's no good being a farmer and getting money from the Common Agricultural Policy and then not knowing what to actually spend the money on. The Agricultural Council helps signpost farmers to the most up-to-date equipment for whatever crop they're trying to grow. They want to grow potatoes, they'll be told what machines to get. If they want to grow tulips, they'll be told what tech they need. The overall result...
Not only that, they'll also be told this is the subsidization you'll get. And it's not just governmental subsidization they'll get a grant from the university as well. They get corporate and public and private funding for it as well. There's a lot of money invested in growing shit.
Is that Dutch agriculture is one of the most productive in the world. But from an environmental perspective, they reign supreme too. For example, antibiotics use is much lower. The same is true for pesticide usage. Water usage for their crops has fallen by close to 90% since the technology revolution began. And thankfully, being the open and trading nation that the Netherlands is, they are exporting this technology around the globe, which will hopefully have a similar positive impact.
Well, we tried to export this technology to the Ukraine, and then a war happened. And now we're trying to export this wonderful technology to Egypt, so let's hope there's no war happening over there. Because that's the whole joke. A lot of Dutch firms were involved in Ukraine for their wonderful wheat fields and other agricultural enterprises. And then Russia went, hey, you're not turning Ukraine into a member state, are you? And we Dutch said, yes, we do. So now the Ukrainians are being in a little pickle. Because in 2014 they had a wonderful little governmental revolution, mainly thanks to the Americans, and then and now they're having a wonderful Russian revolution. But yeah, exporting this technology has its risks, folks. So don't get farming technology from the Dutch. You might get invaded.
Elsewhere. Both the United Arab Emirates and Singapore have made large orders for Dutch agricultural technology. They're doing this to improve their food security, and I wouldn't be surprised if other rich growing economies do the same. It is a success story that...
Well, the United Emirates will have to because they're running out of oil. As for Singapore, they need the money so they can pay China to stay the fuck away. But yeah, sure. This is all to do with being self-sustainable. It has nothing to do with we need this technology so we can say no to certain countries, especially when the oil runs out or when certain countries won't go, hey, your island, that's our territory.
Goes under the radar when thinking about the Dutch economy, but the cheese I had for lunch is in part due to the agricultural revolution, and for that I say thank you. Over to you then. Did you know before this video how strong Dutch agriculture was? Were you surprised by the...
I wasn't surprised. Well, I was surprised with the glaring amounts of faults in it, but hey. So,
according to the World Resources Report, in order to feed 10 billion people by 20...
Because this is the fun bit. Oh, no, Daryl. Also, Java has 5 more years and then it's out. So I hope Mr. Kodeboer gets his money out of it, because it's otherwise wasted time. But this is the funniest bit, folks. So in 2050 we'll be at 10 billion people, and certain people don't like that. But we're going to have to feed those 10 billion people, though. That's why we Dutch are getting rid of our farms, because that makes sense.
2050, with the same level of food production. Most of the world's forests must be deforested. Another way out, experts say, is the urgent creation of a more efficient agricultural system that will help solve the impending problem of world hunger. The Netherlands, a small country that has been able to rank second in the world in terms of agricultural food export, is a worthy example to follow. But how exactly did they manage to achieve this result? The simplest way to increase yields is to increase the use of various soil fertilizers and pest control chemicals. Although this helps to increase yields in the short term, however, such methods require a constant increase in the dosage volume, which leads to soil degradation and its inability to grow anything except for a few crops, and then
Yeah, buddy, this is an American problem, because Americans don't do crop rotation. At least not the big farms don't do that. So that's a big farm problem. Most farms in Europe do crop rotations just to prevent soil erosion. Because after 5 years of potato farming, guess what? The soil is exhausted. That's why you throw potatoes in winter, you throw carrots in summer, in spring, all that yada yada, all that wonderful stuff.
desertification. Due to various weather conditions and terrain features, the degree of soil degradation can either accelerate or slow down, but the result will still be
No, it's not slowing down. It's literally, if you rotate your crop, it doesn't degrade. That's literally the... Again, this is my problem with I'm not a farmer. I worked on farms a lot. They literally said that's literally the reason. Oh, we're doing this now because we have this amount of nitrate in the ground, so we can't put that vegetable in there. And this is the fun bit, folks. So a farmer will plow its field, will harvest its crop. After it they harvest their crop, they will plow the field and take soil samples to see the nutrient levels in the ground, to decide which vegetables they need to put in. Because sometimes, depending on rainfall and all that stuff, you can't go, oh, but last year I put carrots in, so this year carrots will be fine. Because if last year you had a lot of rain, so the nutrients washed out, the bad nutrients washed out, this year you had less rain, so this year the carrots will rot. But hey, again, soil erosion happens, apparently. You can't stop it. It's gonna happen.
the same. Another major problem is soil compaction. In good condition, the soil should consist of 50% of the earth, 30% of water, and 20% of air. But the constant driving around of
Here's another fun bit. Over here in the Netherlands, we have peat ground, and we have ocean. What used to be literally the sea. So peat ground will compact, and the minute it gets irrigated, it will rise up again. What we did with this is the fun bit with what a lot of countries seem to forget about how things work. We did the same bullshit with the land that used to be underwater, and we pumped the water out. We didn't start farming on that land because that land was infested with salt, because it used to be a sea. So the land was too salt to farm. What did you do? You put peat down, you put dirt down, you put plants down, dead plants down. You put another layer of dirt down, and you start layering that up. Guess what you get? You end up with peat ground. So the minute that gets irrigated, that will rise again. It's very stupid, but that's how the whole thing works.
tractors, trucks, combines, and other agricultural machines upset this balance. As a result, the soil layer 1 meter deep becomes dense and is not capable of producing a good harvest. It is for this reason that 48% of all seedlings never germinate. Thus, without serious innovative technologies, complete soil degradation is just a matter of time. It is therefore extremely important to take into account the best agricultural practices of a country such as the Netherlands. Scientists unanimously declare that today it is necessary to allocate sufficiently small resources in the short term in order to then receive huge profits in the future. And this is not to mention the prevention of mass hunger and deforestation. So, how did the Netherlands manage to develop their agriculture?
I hate these people. Innovative techs. Technology fixed everything.
It all started almost 50 years ago when the government set a course to support the development of agriculture. Before this, the industry was owned by farmers and usually had little
Before this and after this, the industry was still owned by farmers. That didn't change.
control from the government.
And again, the government has little control over the farmers. Now, through the environmental rulings, they're trying to put control on the farmers, and currently they're failing, thankfully, at it. But they have succeeded in bullying about. Currently, we're at a loss of over 30,000 farmers since the 90s, even more than that, maybe even in the 40s. And that's simply by taxation, by regulation. That's how you make sure someone doesn't enjoy their job and leaves.
Some historians believe that the reason for the change was visionary politicians who saw huge prospects in this sector.
Hey, and welcome to the Farm Boy Summer episode. I hate this. Politicians did this. Technology did this.
Others believe that it happened historically because Dutch tulips and cheese have long been known all over the world.
See, I'm more of the latter option, because Dutch cheese is famous all around the world. It's in high demand. Same thing with tulips. Same thing with potatoes, carrots. All those wonderful things we produce. That's why the farmers have set up a political party who then gave them access to the government to set this whole thing up. But hey, sure, technology and politicians did all of this, folks.
Some also believe that after the Cuban Missile Crisis, when the world was on the brink of
This had nothing to do with the freaking Cuban Missile Crisis. This had to do with the 2-year famine we had during the German occupations, or better known as World War II. This is what I hate about this. They go, oh no, look, the horrible thing that happened in America must have affected the Dutch. No, it didn't. What affected us was Germans occupying us and then go, yeah, we're gonna just stop all trade in the Netherlands. So a certain region in the Netherlands would starve because they wouldn't get the produce they needed.
the nuclear war.
And yeah, then we can afford to lose 50,000 farmers. How many farmers does the U.S. have? Because that's close to all of them.
The government decided to increase its food supplies. In any case, at that time, the state began to actively help farmers develop.
But again, this is one of those American channels, so of course we have to include America, otherwise Americans wouldn't identify with the whole thing. Because Americans don't have farmers. Americans don't even know where the chocolate milk comes from. They think it comes from brown cows. It's so fucking retarded. And I know, I don't mean all Americans, I mean the city folk. Hey, Farmer Place. Welcome to the show.
Their farms. They created a more flexible tax policy, provided guarantees for obtaining loans, etc. The first cooperatives began to appear, united farms that could have expensive equipment in common use.
Oh, I know, fine.
In the late 1990s, even the slow.
Like I said, it's the city folk that don't understand. That's why inner city schools literally have excursions to farms so kids understand where milk comes from. What do you mean it doesn't come from a carton box?
Twice as much food using half as many resources appeared, and what followed was farmers beginning to reduce their use of water and fertilizers. The lack of land, and the country has very little of its territory, began to compensate for the development of innovative technologies. And one example of this is the Duyvestein Tomatoes, a 70-year-old company. Since 2011, the company has
Yeah, I know. Again, because this is the parade horse of the Netherlands right now, at least of the the greenhouse production firms. Of look how we can outproduce any tomato producing country with tomatoes in a cold climate. Look at us. Tomatoes is not our main product when it comes to growing agricultural foods. But hey, they keep going. Look at this. It's all industrialized.
introduced technologies for the use of geothermal energy and hydroponics. The first technology helps provide special greenhouses with warmth, creating an isolated environment in which tomatoes can grow all year round.
Buddy, those aren't geothermal installations. Those are CO2 installations. They're pumping CO2 in the greenhouses. That way we get absurd growth. I mean, man, know what you're presenting, dumbass.
The hydroponic system provides plants with useful trace elements and water using special bags, and saving up to 90% of water compared to traditional cultivation. The use of these technologies has led to amazing results, says Ad van Adrichem, General Manager for Duyvestein Tomatoes. Our greenhouses cover an area of 14 hectares, and we produce around 100 million tomatoes a year. Another interesting example is the work of the farmer Jacob van der Born. He specializes in growing potatoes near the Belgian border. While the average potato yield per hectare in Europe is about 9 tons, his personal field yields over 20 tons. Such a high level of productivity is provided by precision farming technology. He purchased 2 specialized drones, a quadcopter and an unmanned tractor. The first drone monitors the chemical composition of the soil using special.
So, here's the fun bit, folks. Using drones doesn't produce more potatoes. He's doing something else, which is called dense potato planting, which is something a lot of people that wouldn't understand to do, but we don't do that a lot because we don't have a lot of room. So we simply, instead of for instance, during the Lend-Lease Act from after World War II, we got American tractors and whatnot. We had to modify the American plows because they were way too big, and they did have a half-assed job. Same thing with seeders, potato harvesters, beet harvesters, all those wonderful things. We had to modify because they wouldn't work on the way we farm. But sure, it's because we're using drones, folks.
Sensors. This allows to spot problems with the water or micronutrient deficiencies. The second drone, an unmanned tractor, carries out all the necessary agricultural work according to a pre-planned program. This saves not only on manual labor, but also sending the tractor to.
This not only saves on Mexican labor. Hey, I want to include the Americans.
work even at night. Simultaneously, as the farmer himself.
This is something also stupid. It works even at night. If you go over here when it's harvesting time or seeding time or plowing time, if you go out at night over here, on the countryside, guess what you're gonna be seeing? A lot of tractors working at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. because they're harvesting around the clock to get everything done. I've done that. I've done it from the age of 16 until 21. This is something so stupid. Oh no, they work at night? How could they do that? When when I was 16, we didn't have GPS, folks. But hey, do you want to know something stupid? We put a metal rod at every end, especially when it was very busy when it came to work. You sometimes would forget, and sometimes people would still forget. There's a little hole in the ground. It goes around the whole field. It's filled with water. It's not good when you put your tractor in it. But we put metal rods, so if you drive over it, you'll hear a clank. And yes, they're all headlights are useless. And here's the fun bit: when I worked on a tractor, half of the time I wasn't doing a lot of farming. I was doing a lot of pulling someone out of a ditch because they drove into a ditch, or they backed up their harvest truck into the ditch. So I drove the big tractor, so I always was on call when someone did it. So I'd have to ditch my work to help them out. It was a lot of fun. But apparently, this is all new. This never happened, folks.
Admits, the lack of water is not the biggest issue. Soil depletion is much more difficult, but even this can be solved with the help of science. The absence of nutrients can be offset by cultivating plants that act in symbiosis with certain bacteria to produce their own.
Science, folks. The absence of nutrients can be offset by cultivating plants that act in symbiosis with certain bacteria to produce their own fertilizer, also known as crop rotation, which has been a thing since the Dark Ages, or even older than that. Technology, folks. Technology.
Fertilizer. Such developments were made possible by the activities of Wageningen University and Research, WUR, located near Amsterdam.
See, what you do is you take a soil sample when you harvest your plants. You send it to the university. They'll tell you what the nutrients are in the soil, so you know what plants to rotate. I explained that with the previous video. But apparently this university goes around every single farm to do that. It's not like you take you take a jar, you shovel some dirt in it, and put it in the mail. I hate how these things are presented, because everyone goes, ooh, technology.
The Science Center brings together scientists and researchers from all over the world.
And they're going to be studying your soil. Not just by pH level, though. It also goes by nitrate level, salt, and other levels. There are a lot of minerals, compounds that they also check. And yeah, look, so over here we don't adjust it. We just adjust it by planting different plants. That's our solution to it. That's why we don't have oversaturated grounds with either pesticides or fertilizers, all that kind of fun stuff. We don't do that over here as much. But apparently these scientists have to do very specific things. Instead of we put it in a liquid solution, we put hell. Here's the fun bit. Do you know how easy these days is? You can literally get strips. You put your dirt in it, you put some liquid in it, you put the strip in it. The strip will give you a color. You know what it is. So you don't even have to send it in anymore. But apparently we need scientists for that.
Challenging them to solve the problems of creating environmentally friendly and cheap food. There is the Food Valley Cluster at the university. The name not only parodies the American Silicon Valley, but also copies its methods. It unites the science.
Here's the fun bit, folks. So, the Food Valley was known in the 70s. When did Silicon Valley became a thing? Last time I checked, that happened in the late 80s, early 90s. But sure, we copied America.
Scientific community with the business community. The cluster includes startups that promote innovative technologies and experimental farms and agriculture. If an idea becomes viable and commercially profitable, then it won't be long before it has many investors who are ready to continue helping the company.
No, there's an idea and then investors show up. investors don't show up after it's done, because then you can already sell it, so you don't need the investors, folks. See, this is my problem with these explanations. They don't even understand how investing works. You don't invest in a product that already works, because then you have to put money in at a premium. You invest at a product that you're not sure that works. That way you can lowball it.
Develop. Thanks to this research center, Dutch farmers have gradually phased out the use of pesticides since the early 2000s. Scientists were able to clearly show that in the long term they will cause much more damage. Pesticides not only kill insects but also harm the soil, destroying the entire ecosystem of the fertile layer. The massive use of chemicals creates deserts, which then quickly spread, capturing more and more new territories. In order not to create a
That's not how pesticides work. See, when you turn the soil barren, guess what? The farm will move up a spot and continues doing the same thing where the soil goes barren, and then the farm will move up a spot. It's not the pesticides that... This is so stupid. They act like, oh, pesticides is like a plague, folks. The minute it's released, it moves around. It barely moves around. That's the whole point of pesticides. Otherwise, they don't work.
Problem that will destroy the farming received from their grandfathers. Farmers began to independently abandon the use of chemical fertilizers and opting for natural methods instead. Thanks.
It's not as much as we're abandoning it. It's this product is no longer on the market, so you better figure it out. That's how it works over here. So literally, because they talk about, oh, this university is developing technologies, and then the farmers will do it, and then the farmers will give input back to the university, and that's it. They seem to forget that there's a whole other industry revolving around it, like pesticide producers, fertilizer producers, processing plants. All those wonderful people are also involved in it. And the minute a certain product is no longer viable, they stop producing it. It's not, hey, we no longer need it. Thank you. It's, oh, hey, this thing I used last year is suddenly no longer on the market. What happened?
The new developments in the cluster since 2009. Farmers who supply meat and poultry to stores have been able to reduce their use of antibiotics by 60%. This has led to better quality meat and
It's not that we've been able to reduce it. There's a legislation for that. There are legislations and other policies for that where it simply states you're not allowed to use it. See how that works? It's not, hey, I don't need it. It's not, no, you're not allowed.
at the same time has reduced the costs of manufacturers for the purchase of medicines. Soon,
No, this is the fun bit, folks. This is a claim that doesn't add up. So here's the thing. Back in the old days, at least I know from pigs and chickens, they were taking pigs were taking about 12 different antibiotics, and chickens were taking about 8 different antibiotics. Nowadays, chickens take 3, pigs take 6, but those medicines, the farmers are paying the same price as they were for the 18 antibiotics for those 6. For the chickens, it's the same thing. For the 8 antibiotics they paid, they're paying now the same price for those 3. But sure, it got cheaper, folks.
it is planned to completely abandon antibiotics. Smart flying drones capable of carrying out all types of agricultural work with minimal impact on the soil are also being developed with might and main. According to researchers at WUR, the development of this generation of drones will allow to solve the problem of soil compaction. This can increase yields with fewer seeds planted. New technologies were able to raise the level of agriculture in the Netherlands to an unattainable level. Each farmer produces on average 2 times more products than any other in Europe. The country ranks first in the production and sale of meat and poultry in the entire European Union, and the total amount of food exports exceeds
Well, here's the thing, hint hand. Dutch farming, I don't know how many people are needed on an American farm, but this has been since the 90s. A Dutch farm literally has the farmer, his wife, and their 3 kids. They do the mainstay of all the labor. If the kids go out of school, they get a day labor, and that's pretty much the go-to for every farmer except for greenhouse farming. Then you have the one I worked at that were 5 greenhouses. We were only with a crew of 11. Because you don't need a lot of people when the job is simplified and easy to do.
$111 billion. As noted by Ernst van den Ende, Managing Director of WUR's Plant Sciences Group, today humanity faces a difficult task. On the planet, we have to grow more food in the next 4 decades than all farmers in history have harvested over the past 8,000 years. If this is not done, then more than 1 billion people will be on the verge of extinction.
Well, good thing we have a vaccine. Because that wouldn't happen with a vaccine.
About the same number on the verge of starvation. Will humanity be able to cope with this? The example of the Netherlands convincingly shows that this task can be solved. You just have to use a competent approach.
And that's why we're getting rid of it, folks. This is why we're getting rid of it. Look, the Netherlands showed us how it's done, which is why the Netherlands is getting rid of it. Because that makes sense.
But will farmers all over the world be eager to learn new technologies and use them on the farms?
Farmers don't mind new technologies. The problem is the legislation that forces them to do so. Because it's never like, hey, this new technology can earn you a profit. It's, hey, you need to use this technology or you're going to be fined. This is my problem with it. They throw the blame at the farmers. It's not the farmers that don't want to. If you tell a farmer they can increase their crop yield by like the Dutch potato farmer, if you get 9 tons out of your field, and a Dutch farmer can get 20 tons out of their field, any farmer would put money to that. The problem is when the government goes to that farmer and goes, hey, you need to produce exactly 20 tons. And then you have a bad year and you only make 19 tons. See how that problem works? But this is even better, folks. So this is the Dutch state making an advert for our wonderful farming future. This is from 2020, by the way. In 2019, they already decided they wanted to get rid of 70% of their farms, of all farmers over here. And this is a video from 2020. So let's see how they see the farming, the future, how they see the future of it. So we got smart dairy farming, feeding and milking with fully automated solutions. Look at that. Smart dairy farming, monitoring livestock around the clock with your smartphone, folks. And yeah, by the way, this whole system, here's the thing. They now show, oh, with your smartphone. This whole system was already available analog. In the 90s, you would have just solenoids and whatnot. Cows will just go where they need to go. Yeah, the minute you train a calf, its rounds, they will just go. And the fun bit over here, and no, those cows don't have TikToks. We're not savages, we're not savages. But my classmates, when I was in middle school, in grade school, middle school, they already had this. It was literally the cow would show up, and it was a pressure plate. The cow would stand on the pressure plate. The gate would go open. The cow would move forward. The only difference is we now have automated milking systems. They still had to put the milking suctions on it, but other than that, it was already fully automated. But now you can do it with your smartphone, folks. Also, by the way, we're the 70% of farms that we are getting rid of now are dairy farmers, and basically dairy, meat, chicken, pig farmers. But wonderful showcase, right? And again, precision farming using GPS and geodata for efficient watering and pest control. Apparently, having a lane in your field, like you can see over there, doesn't work. You need GPS, folks, and you need to have geolocated data so you know where you're driving. Because that lane you're seeing clearly in the field is no guide. And then greenhouse horticulture, reducing energy use up to 50%. You want to know what's reducing it up to 50%? It's LED lighting instead of fluorescent bulb lighting. Other than that, there is not. It's actually the power usage is actually increased due to all the robotics in there. And yeah, this is the World Horti Center. So this abysmal architectural monstrosity is basically our go-to for every foreign agent that wants to see how the Dutch are farming. This is a showcase module. All the plants that they're producing over there, anything they harvest from there is being thrown away. Just so you know. Because it's only there to showcase. It's like a work of art, you know. You look at it and then you throw it in the trash. And again with the stupid ass tomatoes. And here's the wonderful thing: Knowledge and Innovation Center, educating the next generation of farmers. What farmers? We're getting rid of them. Hold on. This is also something stupid. Knowledge and Innovation Center, using bumblebees for natural pollination. We always did that. Here's the thing, folks. So, in the 1800s, beekeepers made bank. Farmers would pay them top-notch for their best hives to be on their fields for pollination. But again, technology did this, folks. It has nothing to do with tradition. And Knowledge and Innovation Center are sharing our knowledge with people all over the world. And here's the thing: we're not sharing, we're selling it. That's not sharing. That's making a buck. And Lou, it's not just insurance premiums that are going up because of the weird sprue of wildfires at every processing plant in America, because apparently you guys make them out of matchsticks. They never burn. This is the weirdest thing, by the way. You guys have had almost 8 months of processing plants exploding, going on fire. Look back. How often that happened before? Because you'd be surprised that you'd never hear a thing for 20 years. And suddenly they all go up in flames. And it's not just the insurance, it's also the new EPA regulations that are coming for American farmers. It's the environmental, not just environmental, but also the humanitarian things. Because hey, you need to be you need to slaughter your animals nice. Over here, for instance, our cattle are being they get medication so they don't feel a thing. But hey, if you're a Muslim, that rule doesn't apply. And yeah, they're being pushed into bankruptcy. 'Cause that's the whole idea. Because like the previous video, we need to get rid of 1 billion people and starve another 1 billion. And this is another thing. City farming, finding new ways to meet food security challenges. So we've tried growing shit on our roofs and whatnot. You know what happens? Within 5 years, you need to replace your roof. If you grow shit on your wall is gonna erode like hell. That's what we figured out. Also, here's a fun bit, folks. So, this wonderful technology of LED lighting and whatnot. Do you know how they got this idea? Illegal hemp growers. Because over here in the Netherlands, you're not allowed to grow wheat. Well, you're allowed to grow some wheat plants, but not on an industrial scale. Even though we have a booming economy when it comes to wheat sales. This is how illegal weed dealers grow their shit. And with enough cop busts, these guys literally went, hey, so this is how they got the wheat done. Because normally wheat would take between 4 to 6 months before you could harvest it. Over here in the Netherlands, you can harvest wheat within 2 months. That's how quick we do it. But that's because Dutch ingenuity, folks. There's another thing. You know how we have salt-affected farmlands, folks? We, I believe 20 years ago, we had a whole new slot of land, mass reclaimed, and we didn't do the thing that we did over 80 years ago. So that land is very salty. So we do the saline agriculture to pull out the salt out of the ground to make it ready for actual farming. But again, this is technology. This is not something we developed over. Let's see, when was the first poldering we did? That happened in Friesland in the 1700s. But we developed that now, folks. We just developed that. It didn't happen 300 years ago. Solving global challenges together. Also, do you know why they keep saying the technology? This is why. Look at the top right corner over there, folks. We love these people, right? And again, this is the fun bit.
Holland is pretty crowdy.
when they say we have the technology, they mean technology like this. To which I again say it's not technology.
Our land is quite expensive, labor is expensive, so we have to be as efficient as possible. We have to be more efficient than others to compete, and that competition drives innovation and technology.
We decided to go for not more hectares, but for more yield per hectare. And that's the moment that we
We didn't decide to go for less hectares. We were supposed to reclaim a crap ton of land out of the North Sea, and then wonderful environmentalists said, "Hey, you can't do that." So then we were stuck with the simple fact of, well, since we can't get more land, we got to improve our yields on the same plot of land because we're not allowed to get more.
start looking into precision ag, precision technology. A lot of people think it's science fiction, but it really is not.
We have only 14.5 hectares and we're producing around 100 million tomatoes a year. The idea...
Again, they love to show this stupid tomato thing. This is the thing. This is one company, folks. We have over 62,000 farmers. But hey, this one company with one plant, the tomato, that's gonna solve everything.
About these greenhouses, we even use less water. We use 50% less energy. Our tomato plants grow in a hydroponic system, so we know for sure that everything is clean and we can steer everything very precisely. We use all the new techniques and all the innovations with a minimum impact on the environment.
Because again, folks, see all these houses and then all the greenhouses? That's basically one farm. And you go, well, that's tiny. Yeah, it's also 1 million tomatoes. No, Lou, here's the thing. Why you guys in America, you had to, in high school you had to grow a potato, right? You know why you're supposed to grow, for your biology class, have to grow a tomato? Because tomatoes, they literally sprout up overnight. So you can you can track its growth process very easily. A potato, you can't track its growth process because it's all happening on the ground. Any other vegetable takes months before anything of significance happens. With a tomato plant, within 2 weeks you'll have a stalk. Within a month, you got a tomato plant. Within the next month, tomatoes start showing up. Everyone knows this from biology class. So again, tomatoes are not an impressive plant. It's just a very easy plant.
My definition of precision farming is doing the right thing on the right moment, on the right place.
Come on, work. So, why does it look like this farmer is in a hostage situation? All I need is a newspaper to show the date of it. Like, I've been kidnapped.
Farming is doing the right thing on the right moment, on the right place. Of course, we're more sustainable because we use less input, and that's economically good for me. We use a range of technology. We are using soil scans that measure the soil quality and the availability for nutrients in the soil, and then the thermal cameras can detect diseases or water stress. Implementing precision farming is a way of getting a better yield and a better quality.
This is climate change and poor farming practices that continue to degrade our agricultural land. There are two things that degrade your agricultural land. One is poor farming, of course, and the second is government interference. And when it comes to taxes, policies, all that kind of fun stuff, that's what's killing farms.
I still believe that farming is the job of the future. There will
Of course, farming is the job of the future. Without farming, you don't have food. Without food, you don't have a future. It's stupid.
be more people, more amounts to feed, and less area. We have to expand the yields of our food that much that we actually need the precision farming to do that.
Sometimes sustainable solutions are costing a bit more on the short term, but on the long term they should be more effective.
Here's the thing, folks. Oh no, we're running out of land. You can double that. You can stack farming land. You can stack cattle land. It's easy. I mean, but that's the whole thing. They make this whole thing. Oh no, we're running out of land. 72% of all the world's land is not used. And they'll go, oh, only 32% of that land is usable for agriculture. That's not a thing. You can shift land. Again, here's the thing, folks. Look at this wonderful, wonderful picture. See all that blue over here? That used to be sea. That used to be ocean. That used to be salt water. All that land is now a highly rich agricultural land. That land, you couldn't grow a damn thing on salt. You can't go to the salt lakes in America. You can't grow and they'll say you can't grow a plant there. You can if you work the land. It's so stupid. But again, we'll get to the wonderful things in a bit. Give me a sec. Nope, wrong button. There we go. Because over here in the Netherlands, the government already spilled the beans as for why the farmers need to go. Because they say, oh, it's for the environment. The farmers need to go for the environment. And the nature is being suffocated by nitrous oxide. That's why we're going to build housing. We're going to build villages, cities there. Because that's not going to suffocate nature, right? And who's going to live in those cities, folks? Well, okay. Let me give you an idea of the wonderful people we're going to be shipping in by next year.
From working class utopias to symbol of France's racial and economic segregation.
Oh, by the way, this is the type of cities we'll be getting, by the way.
The French banlieue has weighed on the country's social and political landscape for decades. The word means simply suburb, but has come to signify high crime, impoverished housing development.
So we had a wonderful Minister of Infrastructure and Housing that stated, we're going to import these wonderful French immigrants. By the way, these French immigrants are processed and are supposed to be shipped back to their home country. But since no cop can go there without dying, these people have been living there for the past 30 years, mooching off the government, and simply put, if you're white and you go there, you're dead. You die. Simple as that. If you're a cop, you go there, you also die. And the our wonderful Dutch Minister of Housing, not housing, goddammit. That stupid bitch, I don't give a crap what jobs he happens to have. So he figured, we'll import these people and we'll have them work in our greenhouses. Apparently we still have greenhouses after we get rid of all the farms. because greenhouses apparently are not a farm, I guess. And we'll put them in the service industry, because these people want to work. Let's look at the wonderful workforce that the Dutch are going to be importing soon.
Blighted by neglect, scarred by riots. Largely constructed in the 1970s to house the country's massive influx of foreign workers, over the following decades they became socially and economically isolated. The term applies to some 1,500 neighborhoods, home to over 5.5 million people.
Just so you know, folks, we Dutch have a population of 19 million. But we're going to be importing these 5.5 million people. See, this is the thing. Over here in the Netherlands, if people want to have a house, there's a waiting list of 10 years to rent a house. There's a waiting list for 3 years to buy a house. But we're going to be building houses, and we're going to house 5.5 million wonderful, they call them inhabitants. They're not, they're immigrants. As Dutch call them, they're fortune seekers. That's what they are.
They're marked by widespread poverty, 40% of the banlieue living below the poverty line, compared with 16% for the rest of France. Unemployment is rampant. 25% of banlieue residents are jobless, compared to less than 9% for the country as a whole. Youth unemployment especially elevated at 45%, 20% above the national average. Public services and funding are scarce, with 4 times fewer daycare centers and 3 times fewer public facilities. The banlieues receive in general far less public funding than other areas. Since the late 1970s, some dozen revitalization plans have been launched by successive governments at a cost of tens of billions of euros to try and bring the French banlieues out of their poverty and isolation.
So they poured in billions of euros in that. It's still a war zone. It's still a chance.
Davantage dans l'éducation, hors l'école, que d'investir davantage dans des rapports de police ou voilà, d'armée, je pense. Voilà. Je pense qu'il y a tout un travail à construire auprès des jeunes et avec les jeunes.
L'approche préconisée par cet anthropologue n'est pas celle privilégiée aujourd'hui dans les cités, où le climat est plutôt à la répression. Pourtant, cela fait plus de 30 ans que l'histoire des banlieues françaises est émaillée d'affrontements entre les forces de l'ordre et une partie de la jeunesse. Des affrontements qui tournent parfois à l'émeute. Ce fut le cas en 2005, quand 2 adolescents de Clichy-sous-Bois, poursuivis par la police, mourront électrocutés en se réfugiant dans un transformateur.
Sortez avec votre caméra, vous, monsieur.
Cet incident tragique est vécu comme une injustice dans le quartier. Les cités de la ceinture parisienne vont alors s'embraser pendant plusieurs semaines. La Grande Borne parmi elles.
Le fait de porter un uniforme auprès de certains jeunes, donc des délinquants, et d'arriver, c'est leur faire une déclaration.
Look, you can cut off the benefits all you want. They're burning their own houses. See how that works? They're already burning their own houses. But again, this wonderful, vibrant culture, we Dutch are going to be importing them, and we're going to be replacing farmers for this wonderful culture. There's nothing wrong with that.
Déclaration de guerre. Quand vous voyez certains jeunes, on leur inculque le fait qu'un simple contrôle d'identité, ce n'est pas normal, c'est une injure. Voilà la réalité aujourd'hui. Aujourd'hui, un policier, il doit être respecté. Et mes collègues, dans leur ensemble, font leur travail au mieux de ce qu'ils peuvent et toujours avec respect.
Plus près de nous, en février, une nouvelle vague d'émeutes éclate dans les banlieues parisiennes suite à l'arrestation brutale du jeune Théo, 22 ans, à Aulnay-sous-Bois. Pendant cette interpellation...
And this is my problem with liberals, is they always go, oh, we're for the downtrodden, we're for the minorities. Because the poor minorities can't be. Here's the thing: if they can't behave in France, but the Dutch Prime Minister, one of the Dutch ministers says, "Oh, we're going to educate these people, like they're savages." But hey, they're the good guys. anyone on the right who says, no, you can't have them because this is not going to work, this is going to increase crime, this is going to amount to so many problems, they're the racist. But when you say, these poor savages, we're going to help them out. We're going to get them a job, we're going to get them an education, we're going to decriminalize them. It's so fucking stupid.
Un policier le blesse grièvement à l'anus avec une matraque. La police parle d'accident, le quartier lui dénonce un viol et crie à l'injustice.
That's right, folks. France had their own, for crying out loud, I forgot his stupid name. They had their own black person of color that was exchanging fake 20s and pulled a gun and Mr. Floyd, who's now being paraded in a gold casket, by the way, through America. He's doing his man's dead, but hey, he's in a golden casket doing a parade tour like he's the American president. Just saying how society is crumbling. But hey, France had their own. He was a violent man, but hey, there's injustice, folks.
Quand il y a des émeutes, bien souvent, c'est qu'on considère qu'il y a une injustice. Et l'injustice, contrairement à ce que beaucoup d'institutionnels croient, c'est-à-dire qu'ils pensent que les gens sont dans la violence gratuite, qu'ils sont là pour se battre, ainsi de suite et tout, et qu'ils veulent régler des comptes avec la police, et qu'ils sont en dehors de l'État. En réalité, ils sont en plein rapport avec l'État. C'est-à-dire qu'ils voudraient que leurs droits, à nouveau, soient entendus et respectés. Donc, ils mettent en place un système, c'est ce qui s'est passé avec Clichy, avec les Ziad et Boudin, c'est ce qui s'est passé en 2005. Il y a une idée de rétablir le droit, de rétablir que l'État respecte les principes du droit.
Pour étayer sa thèse, Amar Eni revient sur l'attaque perpétrée contre les policiers de la Grande Borne. Il évoque l'arrestation survenue.
Well, yeah, this is the thing. Here's the thing, folks. You guys in America ended stop and frisk. French police literally has to do stop and frisk, just so they don't get shot. But yeah, so this wonderful, vibrant culture is going to replace the farmers. And again, here's a wonderful thing. The Dutch politicians are all saying, "Oh, the farmers are intimidating the politicians." And you shouldn't be allowed to be intimidating the politicians, because they're already painting this as a civil war. They're trying to instigate on January 6 over here, which is kind of funny, because they were like, "Oh, we're going to schedule a protest," and the Dutch government immediately thought, "Oh, you're going to go to Den Haag," and they were like, "No, because we're not stupid, we're not retarded." And this is the best bit. So a farmer invited all the Dutch farmers over to his place to do a protest. Now, not all of them showed up, but a good number of them showed up. About 20,000 of them showed up, folks. It's the biggest farming protest we've had, and I've showed you guys the 2019, I've showed you guys the 1990s, the 2020s, and the 2021. This is going to be a year cycle where farmers have to go and say no, and it's kind of getting annoying. And I don't mean it's getting annoying that the farmers have to do this. It's getting to the point where it's like, so every time we'll have, just because this is the thing, every time you have to show up because the government doesn't understand the meaning of no, it's starting to turn into quite the rape story, ain't it? But yeah, so since this is all an insurrection, right? Let's play some wonderful music with this. just so you guys know, farmers caused over 34 kilometers of traffic jams, which is basically about 230 miles of traffic jams all across the country. Also, since the Belgian farmers weren't allowed to do anything in their own country, they decided to show up as well over here. I hate this new feature of YouTube. If the video isn't in front, it doesn't play. And I'm kind of surprised that American farmers haven't done this yet, even though the trucker convoy has already not worked. Still though, people should be notified with the fact, because here's the thing, what I would do if I was an American farmer. I wouldn't go to DC like the whole stupid ass trucker convoy did, or the January 6 people did. I would go to the cities, because those are the people that need to understand what's happening. Because over here in the Netherlands, when truckers or anyone protest over here, we lock down the highways, which means no traffic happens. So if shit gets delayed, hell, some shit doesn't even get delivered at all. And if locking down the highways doesn't work, we'll lock down the access roads to Belgium, to Germany, because then you can't export shit. And that's even more devastating for them. It's devastating for the Dutch economy, which can take a beating easy, but then it becomes a governmental problem of people going, so why are you doing anything about this? Because I can't get my shit out of the country. The Dutch farmers have, in the past, have blockaded food distribution centers, all that kind of wonderful stuff, so you go to a store and suddenly go, hey, where's everything? But hey, America already has that, right? And as you can clearly see, there is no end in sight when it comes to it. If you think these are all the tractors, these are the early bird folks. These are the guys that left at probably at 4 a.m. And unlike the previous farmer protests, this time they also had all the industries revolving around farming included in this as well. So the feed makers, the fertilizer makers, the seed makers, they were all present on this wonderful event. What that essentially means is, if the government push the shove, folks, then suddenly we don't produce anything anymore. And then the Dutch government will realize what 6% GDP really means. Because then we're gonna have to import 6% of GDP to feed ourselves. And I'm just gonna say, if you thought this was bad, folks, these are the early birds. This protest started at 2 p.m. Today, and these guys were already on the roads at 6 a.m. At least 4 a.m. And there was no stopping until 1 p.m. this afternoon. That's how bad they blockaded the whole roads. And this was dusk, which is basically 5 a.m. over here. Because it's summer. And, oh no, what happened? Gridlock happened, folks. And by the way, that's not smog, that's fog. That's literally the fog that's rising from the ground, so... I mean, Floridians bitch about the humidity. You want to bitch about humidity? Look at that. That's humidity, folks. And the reason why the Dutch flag is upside down is blue, white, red, nation in distress. That's what that means. Damn it, fucking subtitles.
We zitten hier in een gebied waarin we vallen met 47% reductie. Dus dat betekent dat 47% ja, van de boeren zo verdwijnen in dat gebied. Ja, daar zijn we tegen. Wat voor gevoel sta je hier? Nou, wel een
And all across the country, they were gathering all the tractors at certain points, and then they moved out in a convoy. Because this is the thing, you don't drive alone, because then the cops will get you. You drive in a convoy, just like the wonderful movie Convoy, then the cops have a hard time dealing with you. Sadly, we did have one tractor who got hit by a truck, so the truck driver and the two people in the tractor got injured. So give your prayers to those folks, because they're gonna need it. But yeah, essentially they went with the idea of going in convoys of 100 to 500 tractors at a time. This convoy is 150 tractors, so there you go. Now, if you multiply, if you divide 100 or 150 up to 500 tractors at a time, if you divide 20,000 tractors, even by 500, that's a lot of entryways and highways being blocked by tractors.
Ze maken even wat beelden hier. Ik hou je even een korte lijf.
Does YouTube keep fucking up the subtitles? But yeah, over 150 tractors are gathering over here to start up a convoy. And here's one of those wonderful convoys moving around. Man, I can't fucking...
Hier denken we met, ik denk 50, 60 trekkers.
And this is the fun bit, folks. So you got, oh, we're starting up with 50 tanks, and then we'll join 100 tank tractors, and then we'll move on to bigger convoys. And the biggest joke is when the Dutch government says, "Oh, we are intimidated." Well, you should be. It's 20,000 farmers you're getting rid of. They're trying to get rid of 18,000 farmers. So. And so the lady mentioned the wonderful word Romeos. So in Den Haag, Romeos are always deployed, which are police in undercover who will start a fight, which will give the police an excuse to crack down on the protest. Which is why they went for a different direction. They went to a private farm. Now, a lot of the opposition who wants to get rid of these farmers wanted to go there too. Now, the Dutch anti-terror, basically our CIA/FBI, told them it wouldn't be safe to go there. Because, yeah, it's not Den Haag, they can't deploy Romeos, they can't deploy rockets. But also, they weren't welcome, and they were bitching about not being welcome. And here's the fun bit, do you know what the farmer said? It's a private company, bro. They literally stated, you need to make an appointment. I'm a company. If you want to come over here, you're gonna have to make an appointment. And as you can see over here, this is the wonderful thing they're doing right now. Is they're starting to block off the road more and more so all the tractors can move up. Which means you get a 334 kilometer long traffic jam. But hey, people didn't notice the farmer protest at all. And as you can see with the wonderful drone footage, you got a town and all those farm fields, and that's pretty much universal all around in the Netherlands. If you take a satellite image of the Netherlands, you'll see only farm fields, or if you go to the metropolitan area, you'll see greenhouses. And we're gonna have to get rid of that. And we're gonna have to put houses there. For the environment, by the way. So this is the farm where 20,000 tractors are being welcomed, and as you can see, the early birds have showed up. The problem with this wonderful drone footage, let's turn that on. So the problem with this wonderful drone footage is they Even with drones, they can't capture all the parking spots for their tractors. Just saying. But hey, have fun counting them. Because you see, this is the primary parking spot, but wait until you see all the fields that are coming. Because this is one of the earlier drone footage you get to see, when they're still building up. But there's a lot of fields filled with tractors. Well, the Sri Lankan protests literally ended up in what we Dutch would say a good Eden. Because they were after every single politician they could find. Because of the famine they are suffering with right now. Again, we're gonna have to feed 10 billion people on this globe, so we gotta get rid of our farms. As you can see, the traffic, the tractors are locking down the traffic, so the other convoy can join. Well, the one in Den Haag looked way cooler, simply because they didn't give a fuck. And here's the thing, it's like Washington DC being invaded with tractors. That's what happened in 2019. Oh, still have that one in there where there's Sally up. Thought I kicked him out. But also, here's the thing, folks. So not all farmers could make it over there. So other parts of the country were also locked off. Now this one they tried to boycott with with riot police vans and whatnot, but again, farmers can drive on land, so they just drove around them. Because you can block a road, but a tractor will just go in the dirt. You don't care. And as much as the government tries to demonize the farmers, thankfully the Dutch people are, well, at least the eastern and south parts of the Netherlands are well in favor of these protests. It's just the metropolitan areas that are bitching about it. But this is also a wonderful thing what farmers did. We have cow bars, which are basically chocolate bars. They're very soft chocolate. I kind of wish I bought some. But this is something they also have been doing. They've been doing outreach projects at schools where they're handing out cow bars to the kids with a wonderful little pamphlet for them to take home so the parents can read that. And they've been all these red handkerchiefs, for instance. That's a cow. That's a farmer's handkerchief over here. So they've been handing those out to kids as well. So they've been wearing all that shit. But yeah, here's them handing shit out. So this is how you get kids, folks. With candy. and not with some corporate candy, no, with traditional Dutch candy. A chocolate bar, a cow bar, because they're gonna get rid of all the cows. Meanwhile, they did block off the street though, so everyone had to go around. And some farmers have air raid sirens on them. That's also a thing. And this is the funny bit, folks. So this is the problem with farmers. So we have farmers all across the country. So they have always a place where they can build up their basically their convoy. And then from there on out, they move out as a convoy. It's kind of hard for the police to even intercept a single tractor that way. As the police have been bitching about where they went. We blocked the road and they still went through. And we can't stop them all. And that's the stupidest thing with the Dutch government right now. They're taking on one of the biggest groups of people you can take on. And not only do they know how to represent themselves, they come with industrialized equipment that a police car can't in 2019 they put police cars on roadblocks and a tractor would literally be an inch off a police car revving its engine, for instance. That's very intimidating. That's very frightening. And over here we have the rule unless police is doing something, they're not allowed to leave their vehicle unattended. So you're sitting in your police van or your police car and you got a bunch of angry farmers an inch away from your car revving their engines. And people can go, oh, that should be illegal and whatnot. But I gotta say, the farmers have been protesting since the 90s. And they have yet to do actually any harm to anyone. Other than roadside accidents because someone else is plowing into them. They have yet to do any harm to anyone. Which is saying a lot. And thankfully, thanks to all the drone development we now have, we have wonderful footage of how this happened. Sadly, this also means we have less camera footage of news crews on the ground, whatnot. Because I was kind of shocked there was very little footage of this. As you can see in the top right corner, that's Gelderland TV, that's provincial TV, that's local TV. That's not cable. But we're getting to the point where we're gonna see how many tractors showed up, because we saw the beginning of a couple hundred tractors were parked there. At least I believe. Yeah, we're getting close to that. On top of that, with all the companies surrounding the farmers having joined the farming protest, same thing has been going on with the shipping industry we have over here, which is quite substantial, and the fishing industry, which is also quite substantial. They're going to be doing protests, I believe this week as well. So we're going to be in for a long time of gridlock.
Het gaat om zo'n 700 trekkers die uit Oost-Brabant onderweg zijn naar Stroe. Dat zorgt voor een monsterfile op de A50. En zorgt ook voor heel veel irritatie bij medeweggebruikers. Het zorgt voor middelvinger inhalen over de vluchtstrook. Dat komen de boeren dan weer door 3 dubbelbaans over de snelweg te rijden en de op- en afritten en de vluchtstroken te blokkeren. Waarom doe je dat? Nou, omdat wij ook niet willen. Want als het zo doorgaat met onze stikstofplannen, dan krijg je mensen die eigenlijk niks verkeerd doen, die geven ze eigenlijk een straf aan degene zoals verkeer en alle kijkers die op. En die hebben de meeste uitstoot.
Mijn vader een boerenbedrijf heeft en ik werk zelf bij een loonwerker. En ja, als het doorgaat, dan kan ik mijn werk niet voorzetten. Dus.
Iedereen kan elke dag wat graag kunnen leven. En als daar niet meer kan, ja, ik denk dat mensen dat gelijk niet meer op kunnen hebben.
Ja, dat wil ook door. En heel goed kunnen we allemaal door, dus ik vind dat echt goed.
Super irritant. Ik ben heel goed bij gegaan en toch ja, heel gedaan. En ik kan me ook voorstellen als dit je leven is, dat je gaat, dat je ook niet heel blij bent.
Ja, dat ben ik heel erg aan het doen. Ja, dan kijk je wel de andere dag rijden. En dan straks weer goed van een half uur zo naar huis. Lopen dat we het gebruiken.
Yeah, in case you guys have been wondering, a lot of local news are reporting on this. Not a lot of national news are reporting on this. Just so you know. And on top of that, a famous Dutch singer is retiring today with his retiring performance. So they're going to be covering that one, not the farmers' protest, because we can't tell the people that what's going on, right? But yeah, this has been pretty much everywhere you go in the Netherlands. Tractors on the highway. So if you thought I'm gonna be home easy peasy going 90, yeah, think again. You're gonna be going 30 to 45 miles an hour. That's kind of the fun bit with the Dutch protesting, what we're doing over here. Even if the news doesn't cover it, you can't really deny they're there, because they're everywhere. And this is the fun bit. Even though the stoplights are red, the tractors have blocked all the access roads, so they have free. They're allowed to. They can basically drive free through the cities. They block the freeways, so they can drive freely on the freeways. Meanwhile, you're stuck there. Let's see. Well, hey, the reason why I'm showing all these videos is how immense it is. We're still like 3 or 4 videos away before we get to the whole meeting thing. Because people can easily overlook the scale of how many farmers were involved in this entire thing. So, how long do you guys think it's gonna take for that farmer's handkerchief to become a right-wing dog whistle? Because that's gonna happen, right? I mean, they even turned that handkerchief into a flag now, so it's kind of like the "Don't Tread on Me" flag now. And all the proceeds do go to the farmers though, so that's good. I had to look into this because I was worried about it. I'm like, okay, so which dumbass made that into a flag? And then the description came, yeah, this is from the organizing farmer, and all proceeds will go to the farmer protest. So that's a good thing. I'm kind of surprised. Over here in the Netherlands, we don't have a lot of grifters on this. Unlike in America, where pretty much every stupid-ass organization has. Pretty much all the people ahead of the organization are a bunch of grifters. Over here, we don't have that. We do have that with alternative news outlets, though. So it's kind of getting annoying with the alternative news people going, we need money. Now this is where we're gonna be starting to. This was basically at dusk, so it's 5-6 a.m. No, sorry, Winning TV. There are no My Pillow code-based farms. Sorry. But this was at dusk when there were a couple hundred tractors. And by the end of the day, we're over 20,000 tractors. And sadly, the drone footage cannot capture it at all. Which is kind of weird. I mean, we have these wonderful drones, and they can't fly long enough to cover everything. Because this is not 20,000 tractors, what you're seeing right now. So, just pointing out, behind all those tractors, there are several fields filled with another a bunch of tractors. Below these tractors at the bottom, there are several other fields filled with tractors. And as sadly, they never made a photo of all of them combined. Because still not everyone is there. By the end of the whole thing, that whole field is filled with people. This field was filled, this field was filled. You can't sadly see, but there are other intersections filled with tractors as well, which we'll see in a bit. Because this is the thing, they made the drone footage while tractors were still piling in. And they never did a whole thing of, okay, everyone is here, let's make a picture of how many tractors there are. Because apparently this drone couldn't zoom out far enough, I don't know. Because the field over there got filled, that field got filled. Then there are... hold on, dang it. So, in the top left corner, folks, there are more tractors. On that freeway in the back, more tractors were coming in. As you can see with the camera footage. And now you can see this wonderful field got filled up. More so, I believe. I don't know. It's hard to tell. If I start counting tractors, it's like counting sheep. I'll fall asleep. Hold on, that's the one where they're leaving. Sadly, I couldn't add this one in the playlist. Ah, for crying out loud. He's live. So this one gives other angles of the whole meeting, where you see other fields being filled as well. But again, I couldn't find a complete picture of the whole protest. So here you can see these are the fields that weren't visible on the other drone because the meeting is all the way to the right, and that farmer's parking lot is filled, and there were so many tractors still coming in. And oh look, more tractors. And more tractors. And now you can see, so that was all filled up. As you can see, they're still filling up the one on the top right. The one on the bottom still had to be filled. Again, this was when not everyone was had arrived yet, so. Because you can't see it by the amount of tractors if everyone was there. You can see it by the amount of people. That not everyone was there yet. But yeah, with that said, folks, I got a few more videos to show you some tractors, and then I'm gonna call it a day. Because this was the quiet retreat, believe it or not. Imagine that. I mean, Americans wouldn't be very familiar with it, considering your 8 months of not so peaceful protesting. Yeah, here we are. They showed up, they had their meeting, they had their discussions with the politicians they did want to speak with. And now they're quietly leaving. Imagine that. And I'll be finishing off the show with the 2019 protest, where there were fewer tractors and they were not so quiet. Well, they were quiet when they left, but they weren't so quiet when they arrived, because at every intersection in Den Haag they were blocked off. So they went, so what is the fence then? I'll just move through this fence. Oh, they blocked it off with military vehicles. I'll just go through the park. Yeah, Phil, here's the fun bit. This is what they call a civil war over here, believe it or not. You guys had an insurrection. This is what they call a civil war. Now, a little side note, folks. So they halted the nitrogen law again, and they want to discuss things again with the farmers, like they did in the 90s, like they did in 2019 and 2020. This is what the farmers did today was basically show. So, you know how many farmers there are. This is 20,000. They already showed up at what politician's town where they said, where she made a claim, oh no, they showed up at my house. She literally had to drive to the farmers to tell them, hey, this isn't nice. Because they blockaded the entire town she lived in. So, again, like Lou said, the wonderful people of Sri Lanka, if the farmers won, you're not getting out. And so far, the farmers have been very peaceful and very kind.
Wij zitten hier in een gebied waarin we vallen met 47% reductie. Dus dat betekent dat er 47% van de boerenzolen moeten verdwijnen in dat gebied. Ja, daar zijn we tegen. Wat voor gevoel sta je hier? Nou, wel een goed gevoel opgeven. Ja. Volgens mij beginnen ze te rijden. Ja, we moeten erheen.
But yeah, with that said, folks, we're coming to an end of the show. Hope you guys had fun, and God, I hope America keeps farmers get their heads together and start doing this shit. Because this is what you need to do in order to because this is the thing, they keep saying, oh, they're intimidating the government. No, they're forcing the government to take a seat at the table and start discussing how to solve this issue. But I'll leave you guys with what happened in 2019, where they were not allowed in the state's capital. So the farmers went, what do you mean we're not allowed? The hell we are. We're gonna force this. And even then, all they did was they drove over some fences and they plowed over some grass on the side of the road. That's all they did. But hope you guys had fun. I sure did. And I'll keep you guys up to date on this, because this is gonna be more protesting, because the government is gonna weasel itself out of talking again and then going, well, we're gonna force it again. So this is gonna happen this entire summer, hence Farm Boy Summer.
Ik ben geboren als een plattelandse boerenjongen. En op die 12e crossen, ik kan op mijn eigen brommen. De stoppelland, de vleuren erop. Alles mis is alles sturen over de kop. Wij broden plaat van de
By the way, don't forget, I'll be on Winning TV tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, where we're gonna be talking about wonderful politics.
Geregeld klappen, maar we schoppen mijn kans. Wij hadden schik, dit een meegemoer. Ik ben en blijven boer. Het was een molle in dat ding stuk als een nul. Ik had een keppen gemaakt met mijn pakjes touw en mijn prikkeldraad. Zolang dat ding was jou, zo hadden wij dan toch nog vervoer. Ik ben en blijven boer.
kant op. Zo, doe je erop, dat zij. Hij gaat ook die kant op. Schiet op. Godver...
Ik ben en blijf een boer. 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 Boer, 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 boer. Ik ben en blijf een 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 boer. Boer, 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 boer. Boeren, toch boeren, geef de boeren maar de macht. Wie is er niet met melk grootgebracht? Laat Den Haag maar razen, te veel mest is ongezond. Waar koeien grazen, ligt nou eenmaal stront. De boer werkt zich te pletten met zijn hart en zijn verstand. Hij zorgt voor de dieren en hij houdt van zijn land. 8:30 s'avonds, hé, daar komt een trekker aan. De boer is pas klaar wanneer het werk is gedaan. Laat de boeren toch boeren, geef de boeren maar de macht. Wie is er niet met melk grootgebracht? Laat Den Haag maar razen, te veel mest is ongezond. Waar koeien grazen, ligt nou eenmaal stront. De boer wordt geplaagd door de regels uit Den Haag. Maar hij produceert wat de markt van hem vraagt. De boer doet dat met liefde en passie voor zijn vak. Nu krijgt hij stank voor dank van de Haagse kaak. Laat de boeren toch boeren, geef de boeren maar de macht. Wie is er niet met melk grootgebracht? Laat Den Haag maar razen, te veel mest is ongezond. Waar koeien grazen, ligt nou eenmaal stront. Niet urenlang vergaderen, de boer houdt het kort. Maar 's avonds hebben wij gewoon eten op ons bord. Na 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 Laat de boeren toch boeren, geef de boeren maar de macht. Wie is er niet met melk grootgebracht? Laat Den Haag zorg wel dat ik me red. Je hoeft me niks te preggen. Die maakt me toch niks wijs. Te prijken, die maakt me toch niks meer.